My phone lit up over an open suitcase. "Stay home, Dad. This is family Nina's parents only. You'd embarrass us." The word family stung like a slap. The hurt lasted one breath. Next I opened a binder. Operating agreement. Realtor on speed dial. Movers booked. Storage paid. Notices sent. By the time their flight home from London landed in Austin, he'll learn what being cut out really feels like, starting with the house he took for granted. Before continuing the story, please comment below to let me know where you are listening to this story. Luke is my son. Austin born. Cedar Park settled. As a kid, he asked 1,000 questions and laughed with his whole face. As an adult, he learned to measure himself by other people's eyes. He likes plans that photograph well. He likes comfort that arrives on time. When money ran thin, I covered gaps without speeches. He said thank you. Then, over the years, thank you turned into silence. Nina is precise. She curates. She calls a schedule protection and a boundary respect, even when the boundary is a wall I am not allowed to climb. With me she is polite, never warm. With her parents she is sunlight. Dave and Lynn are pleasant in that easy Texas way, good posture, careful smiles, the kind of people who say, "You take care now," and mean it for everyone but the person they have already decided to leave out. Their trip to London would look perfect in photos. It already did. I canceled my ticket. The airline agent's kind voice could not soften the click when the reservation vanished. In the quiet, I stood at the kitchen window and watched the sprinkler tick across the lawn, arcs of water catching late light. Family only. If that phrase did not include me, then it did not own me either. In my office, I opened the drawer that holds what matters. A black binder sat on the shelf with a white label in my blocky handwriting, Cedar Park, LLC. Inside was the operating agreement. Manager managed. I am the manager. Duties, rights, remedies, notices. I ran my finger down the table of contents until the words stopped feeling like ink and started feeling like options. I'm not a man of scenes. I do not slam doors or chase cars down streets. I make lists. I keep receipts. I follow procedures other people forget exist. I laid the binder on the desk and took a slow breath. Luke's text still glowed on my phone beside the passport I would not use this week. In the reflection on the screen, I did not look angry. I looked finished. I placed the blue shirt back into the suitcase and closed the lid. 2 clean clicks. I left the suitcase by the door and sat down at the desk. London would land in Austin in a few days. So would Luke, with Nina and her parents, smiling, tired, sure of their place. I opened the binder to the first tab and reached for my phone. The hurt lasted one breath. The second breath was work. I opened my phone to the same blue glow everyone turns to when a room goes quiet. London spilled across the screen. Luke and Nina under a gray sky on the south bank. Dave and Lynn smiling like a brochure. The caption said, "Family time. 4 faces, none of them mine." I counted without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, 4, then I tapped call. Street noise answered first. A rush of voices and a bus braking somewhere close. Luke picked up with a quick, "Hey Dad, we're about to order. Make it fast." I kept my voice level. I saw the photos. "You said family only." He sighed, the way people do when a conversation inconveniences their afternoon. "Dad, this trip is Nina's side. Her parents, you know how you can be. It gets awkward. We can lose face." Lose face. I repeated it in my head like a new definition for an old word. What am I then? Another sigh. Impatient now. "Look, you're intense. You ask a lot. It makes things uncomfortable. This is better for everyone, okay?" I let a beat pass so my mouth wouldn't run ahead of my sense. "Understood," I said. "Enjoy London." He took the out and hung up. The house went very still. The clock in the hall ticked like a small engine. I set the phone beside my passport and walked to my office, a room built around things that stay where you put them. The second drawer holds a short stack of business cards and a long habit of keeping life in folders. Alan Reed was there, realtor, neat black type-on cream. On the shelf above the desk sat the black binder with the white label I had written years ago. Cedar Park, LLC. I pulled it down and felt its practical weight. The spine creaked when it opened, familiar and steady. Tabs marched in a line. Articles, members, management, notices, dispositions. I turned pages until the paper hissed like a quiet yes. Manager managed. Authority to act in the ordinary course of business. Authority to dispose of company property when, in the manager's judgment, doing so serves the interest of the company. Methods of notice. Timeframes. A paragraph I had highlighted the day we signed. Yellow gone a little pale at the edges. I read it through once, then again, until the words stopped feeling like theory and settled into tools I could pick up. The law does not love drama. It prefers sequence. I made a list on a yellow pad, my block letters straight as fence posts. Review OA. Draft notice, certified mail and email. Realtor, photographer, title company, keys, inventory. I did not add emotions to the list. They do not file well. On the desk, the phone glowed with the last text I would read twice. Stay home, Dad. This is family. In the screen's reflection, I could see the binder open to the page that gave me a way forward. I slid Alan's card from the drawer and placed it on the pad, top left, where important things live while they are becoming real. Outside, a sprinkler ticked across someone's new sod. A plane hummed high over Austin, headed east. I set my alarm a little earlier than usual and closed the binder with the same care I use for anything that matters. My index finger rested on Alan's number, first call in the morning. I called Alan at 7 sharp, the way you call someone when you've already made up your mind. Morning, Tom, he said, voice clear like a man who lives by his calendar. I told him what I wanted in plain words. List the Cedar Park property under the LLC, manager authority attached, immediate availability. He didn't ask for the story behind it. He asked for the lockbox code, the utilities status, and when he could get a photographer in. 9 a.m. Works, he offered. Works. I set the phone down and opened my laptop. The operating agreement lay open beside the keyboard, the yellow highlight around notices staring back at me like a line I would not step outside. I drafted the member notice in simple language date, authority, intent to dispose of company property in the ordinary course of business, effective steps to follow. I attached the excerpted clause. I printed 2 copies and slid each into a manila envelope, then prepared a certified mail slip for each, my handwriting steady, my name where it has always belonged, manager. I scanned and emailed the same package to Luke's address on file. Subject line, Company Notice Cedar Park. The outbound ding sounded small and final. Next, the card. Years ago, I'd added Luke as an authorized user for emergencies in good faith. Good faith is a fine thing until it becomes something else. I opened the banking app and navigated to the management page. His name sat there in clean letters, an arrangement that had felt generous when it began. Remove user. The screen asked if I was sure. I read the sentence twice. The way you do when you intend to live with what follows. Yes. A confirmation banner slid across the top. Access revoked. A notification logged a recent overseas charge that would not go through now. I let the app roll back to the home screen and closed it. Some doors are meant to stay shut once you pull them to. I wrote another list on the yellow pad, Alan notices. Bank then added title company, keys, inventory, photographer. I slipped my spare key for Cedar Park onto a key ring with a simple tag and set it by the binder. The house would be a set of rooms again soon, not a claim or a battleground. I thought about the blue shirt still folded in my suitcase and decided to leave it where it was. Not as a reminder of what I wasn't doing, but as a promise that my life could move without permission. Email pinged. Alan again. Market's hot in Cedar Park. Photographer at knee. Lockbox at ut. Tree dive. Expect interest today. I replied with the code and the utility details, then stood at the window for a moment. Early sun was laying long bars across the street. A runner went by with a dog that glanced up at me like it knew I had plans. I gathered the envelopes and the spare key. The morning had the clean feel of a page you're not afraid to write on. By the time their flight home from London landed in Austin, every step would have a date, a time, and a signature. I reached Cedar Park just after sunrise, the kind of Texas morning that starts cool and promises heat by noon. The street was quiet. A sprinkler tapped a metronome somewhere down the block. My key turned smoothly. Inside, the air was still. Yesterday's lavender detergent faint in the hall. First, procedure. I walked room to room with my phone, slow pans for condition. Cabinets open, closets open, counters cleared. A photo of Luke as a boy leaned crooked on a shelf. I straightened it and kept moving. The echo in the living room was sharper than I remembered, like the space already knew it was about to empty. Hank's truck rolled up at 8 on the dot. He stepped out with a nod, 2 guys right behind him, dolly and blankets in a practiced rhythm. "Morning, Tom. We'll label everything as we go." I unlocked the door and stood aside. They started with the bedroom's wardrobe boxes, closet rails, the steady rip of tape. I made a simple inventory on a yellow pad. Bedroom 1, 6 boxes. Bedroom 2, 4. Office, 3 monitors, 1 tower, 2 crates of cables. I called out labels as they sealed. Luke Kitchen, Luke Office, Luke Closed. I helped where it made sense, pulling cords, bagging hardware, stacking books in tight rows. When they reached a framed print of London, I felt the tug in my chest and let it pass. The men worked with the kind of care that looks like speed from the outside. By 10, the sectional was wrapped, the dining table padded, the last drawer emptied of stray screws and a forgotten ticket stub. We caravanned to secure storage off 183. Inside the office, the air conditioner hummed and a bell chimed when we walked in. Rita looked up from her screen and smiled with her whole face. Unit C-214. Ground level, wide aisle. Need a disc lock? I showed ID, signed the month to month, paid the first month, and took the silver lock she slid across the counter. Outside, the unit door rolled up with a clean, rattling purr. Hank's crew stacked the boxes like they were building with rules. Heavy low, labels out, furniture along the back wall, a walkway clear down the center. I slipped the inventory sheet into a plastic sleeve and taped it just inside the door. When the last blanket came off the dolly, I clicked the disc lock through the latch. It felt like sealing a letter you had written carefully and were finally ready to send. Back at the house we did one more walkthrough. The rooms held light instead of things. The kitchen counter was bare, but for the lockbox Alan had set at 8:30, already blinking its small green OK. Hank shook my hand. "Good luck," sir, and his truck pulled away with a low diesel sigh. I stood in the living room a minute longer. The AC kicked on, a soft start. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Alan, offer incoming. Cash." Alan's text was short and sure. "Cash buyer wants to see it this afternoon. Can you swing by?" I met him at the Cedar Park place just after lunch. The rooms held light instead of furniture. The AC hummed a measured calm. Ethan and Carla Brooks arrived in a compact SUV, doors shutting with that hopeful sound people make when they think they're arriving somewhere that could be theirs. He had the build of someone who lifts on weekends. She wore flats and an easy smile that reached her eyes. "It's the neighborhood," Carla said, looking out toward the quiet cul-de-sac. "Brushy Creek trails are 5 minutes," Ethan added, like he'd already measured the run. They moved through the house with that quiet reverence buyers have when rooms are still and clean hands on door frames, a pause at the kitchen window to check the angle of the afternoon sun. In the smallest bedroom, she stood a second longer. "A crib would fit here," she said, almost to herself. Alan handled the talk the way good agents do. Comps, timing, clean closing, cash. Quick. Carla and Ethan traded a look that said the decision was already made. "Let's do it," Ethan told Alan. "We're ready." The title company off 1,431 had cold air and warm coffee. Papers slid in orderly stacks. Names printed neat where signatures needed to land. LLC here, manager there, a notary seal pressing a small circle of certainty into the page. I initialed more than I signed, habit steadying the pen. Carla signed with the quiet excitement of someone crossing a finish line without the crowd. We shook hands in the lobby under a framed map of Williamson County. "Congratulations," Alan said to them first, then to me. "Good execution, Tom." Outside, the heat met us like a friendly arm across the shoulders. I gave Ethan the ring with the simple metal tag. He weighed it, nodded once, and pocketed it like a promise. In the truck, my phone chimed wire confirmation. Funds received. The numbers settled on the screen and didn't blink. I let out a breath I hadn't noticed I was holding. The house was no longer an argument. It was a line item closed. On the drive back to Austin, traffic thickened near Lakeline. A jet stitched a thin white seam high across the blue, climbing or coming home, I couldn't tell. At a red light, I checked the airline app anyway. London to Austin, on time. Wheels down tomorrow at 10:05 a.m. I set the phone face down on the passenger seat and watched the light turn green. By the time their flight lands, I thought everything that needed a date, a time, and a signature will have one. When London lands in Texas, an Uber turns onto a street they don't own anymore. Late morning, heat shimmered over the cul-de-sac. A rented box truck idled near the curb, ramped down, a couple of cartons already on the porch. Carla was inside, knees bent, taping painter's paper along the baseboards. Ethan stood in the doorway, a cordless drill in one hand and a printed packet in the other, his posture calm, like someone who knew the ground under his feet was his. The Uber stopped. Luke stepped out first, sunglasses, jaw tight, phone clenched in his palm like a weapon. Nina followed, chin high, dragging a set of hard-shell luggage in sharp staccato rolls. From the far side, Dave, my son's father-in-law, tall, silver-haired, the type who fills a room without raising his voice, and Lynn, his wife, stretched after the long flight, both wearing that confident half-smile of people certain a door will open for them. Luke froze mid-step. Why the hell is there a truck in our driveway? His voice was already raised, the question more accusation than curiosity. Ethan lifted a hand, friendly but firm. Afternoon, we're moving in. Nina blinked hard. I'm sorry, what? This is our house, Luke snapped, stepping forward, his tone sharp enough to cut. Carla appeared beside Ethan, paint tape still stuck to her wrist. We closed yesterday, she said evenly. Everything went through. Luke gave a short, ugly laugh. No, you didn't. Ethan held up the packet, angling the first page forward. Deed, title policy, keys transferred. We're the Brooks family. For a beat, all I heard was the air conditioner thrumming behind them and the far-off whine of a mower. I stepped out from the shade of the oak where I'd been waiting and walked toward the porch. Luke's head snapped toward me, his surprise flashing into a glare. Dad, what the hell is this supposed to be? Exactly what it looks like, I said. They're moving in. This is a joke, Nina spat. We were in London. We didn't approve anything. You weren't asked to, I said. It was an LLC decision. Dave, the father-in-law, glanced at Lynn, confusion threading into his practiced politeness. Tom, maybe we can go inside and talk this through. There's no inside to talk in, I said. Not for you. Luke stepped in close, voice rising. You can't sell our home without asking me. You can't just pull this crap while we're gone. Ethan didn't flinch. He simply turned the packet so the bold official heading was visible. Carla's hand hovered near her phone. We can call someone if we need to, she said quietly to me. That won't be necessary, I said. No one here is trespassing. Nina crossed her arms. This is humiliating. Public scenes usually are, I said, my voice steady. That's why I sent notice. Twice. Luke's face reddened. Notice? You blindsided us? You knew we were gone. You waited like a snake to do this behind our backs. I followed the agreement you signed, I said. The manager acts when it serves the company. This served the company. Dave, still trying to smooth the air, cleared his throat. Tom, this feels extreme. Being told family doesn't include me felt extreme, I said. This is simply paperwork. A neighbor's door opened across the street. Mr. Miller stepped out, paused, then turned back inside. A dragonfly darted through the heat between us. The box truck engine rumbled. Luke's hands clenched at his sides. We're going to fix this, you hear me? We'll fight this. We'll burn whatever paper you think makes this real. You're going to read this, I said. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a thick envelope, the flap already loosened. On top were certified mail receipts, dates crisp, signatures clean. Beneath them, the highlighted excerpt of the operating agreement. At the back, a printed sheet with an address and unit number. Luke swiped it from my hand, flipping through with jerky movements. Secure storage? You put our stuff in a damn storage unit? I organized what was yours, I said. Unit C, 214. First month's paid. Inventory sheet is taped inside the door. Luke's voice went full edge, louder than before, drawing every eye in the cul-de-sac. You think this makes you right? You think hiding behind some paperwork erases what you've done? You're pathetic. I met his glare without raising my voice. I think I'm done pretending the word family means the same thing to both of us. Nina shifted, her face pale under the heat. Dave set a hand on her shoulder, but his eyes stayed on me, measuring. I set the envelope back on the porch rail, steady and deliberate. That's all you need to know. Luke's mouth worked like he had more to say, but for once no words came. Luke stared at the envelope like it might blink first. He finally snapped the flap and slid the stack out green certified receipts on top. My name where the postal clerk stamped, his email printed beneath with a timestamp that didn't care what time zone London was in. He tried to speak. I kept my tone even. You were notified. Certified mail and email. Dates are there. Nina skimmed the highlighted paragraph on the operating agreement, lips pressed thin. Manager, managed, authority to dispose of company property, ordinary course of business. She glanced up. You can't just decide that. I didn't just decide. The company did, I said. I'm the manager. It's in the agreement you signed. Luke flipped to the last page. A small metal key was taped to a card. I nodded at it. Secure storage, off 183. Unit C, 214. Inventory sheet is taped inside the door. First month's paid. Nina looked past me toward the doorway where Ethan stood, packet still in his hand. This is humiliating, she said, quieter now. This is administrative, I said. Humiliation was the text you sent. Dave cleared his throat, steady, practiced. Tom, there has to be a way to handle this with more grace. Grace, I repeated, not unkindly. Grace would have been adding me to the photo in London. Grace would have been a call before the text. Luke's jaw edged forward. You're punishing us because we wanted time with Nina's family. I'm correcting a definition, I said. You told me family didn't include me. I believed you. I stopped acting like it did. He thrust the papers back at me. I didn't take them. The deed in Ethan's packet was the only paper that mattered here now. The heat climbed. Somewhere, a cicada clicked into its own kind of argument. Nina held up a notice. This says, serves the interest of the company. How does selling our home serve anyone? It stops a situation from serving only you, I said. It removes obligation from relationship. Those are different things. For a moment, no one spoke. Carla shifted her weight and slipped inside, giving us the porch and the sun. Ethan stayed, not challenging, not retreating. A person who knew where his boundary ended and mine began. Luke found anger he could carry. We'll undo this. We'll get an injunction. We'll make calls. You'll make calls, I said. The title company will answer. The agreement will read the same. Nina gestured toward the curb, toward the rolling suitcase with a London tag still looped through the handle. Where are we supposed to go right now? To the storage unit, I said. Or to a hotel. Or to your parents' place. You're adults. You'll sort it out. Dave opened his hands, peacemaker's pose. Tom, come on. I met Luke's eyes. You erased me with one sentence. I responded with signatures. That's all this is. He stepped in close, the way he used to when he was 12 and wanted to win a point by standing too near. We're going to fight you. I nodded once. Then I'll see you in court. The courthouse in Williamson County was cooler than the morning outside, air moving in a quiet hum that made voices sound careful. I sat with my attorney at a narrow table, the black binder on top of a neat stack, tabs like flags marking what mattered. Luke and Nina slid into chairs on the other side, travel-tired traded for restrained anger. A wall clock ticked without hurry. The judge took the bench, even-voiced, eyes moving from file to faces. Counsel, he said. My attorney stood, summarized in clean lines. Manager, managed LLC, authority defined in the operating agreement, notices sent by certified mail and email, sale executed through a licensed title company, funds accounted for, no embellishment, just sequence. We submitted exhibits. The operating agreement opened to the highlighted paragraph. Certified mail receipts with dates and signatures. Screenshot printouts of the email notices. Time-stamped. A copy of the closing statement from the title company and the deed transferring to the Brooks family. Paper that stayed where you put it. Luke's attorney spoke about fairness and surprise. About a family away on a trip. About expectations. He reached for words like blindsided and trust. The judge listened without interrupting, pen tapping once against the legal pad, then looked back to our side. Did the operating agreement require a vote of members for disposition in the ordinary course? No, Your Honor. Did the manager provide notice according to the agreement? Yes, Your Honor. Dates are in the record. Luke leaned toward his microphone. He said the word family like a key that should open any door. The judge glanced at him, not unkindly. This proceeding concerns company governance, not family dynamics. My attorney asked to approach, set the binder on the rail, and turned it so the judge could read the exact clause. Manager authority? Good faith? Best interest of the company? The judge read silently, then nodded once, a small acknowledgement that words mean what they say when you sign them. I didn't speak. I watched the fluorescent light catch the edge of the notary's seal on the closing statement. I noted the faint scent of coffee from the hallway, the soft scratch of the bailiff's pen. I felt a steadiness I hadn't felt since the suitcase lay open on my bed. The judge cleared his throat. The request for injunctive relief is denied. The complaint is dismissed. The manager acted within the scope of authority as defined by the operating agreement. Notices were sufficient. The sale stands. Each party bears its own fees. The gavel was a small sound, not dramatic, just decisive. We stood. My attorney shook my hand once, firm and brief. Luke looked at me but didn't speak. Nina stared at the tabletop as if the wood grain might offer an appeal. Outside, the Texas heat folded around me, bright and honest. My phone buzzed as I stepped into the sun. "Alan, how are you doing?" he asked when I picked up. "Better," I said, meaning it. The river at Ladybird Lake flashed silver through the trees. Traffic hummed low and steady on the overpass. For the first time in days, my shoulders felt light. I walked to the railing and watched a kayaker cut a clean line across the water. Paperwork had ended what a sentence had started. Not with noise, with order, the kind that holds. 2 days after court, I stood under a white awning at an RV lot off 290, palm on a trailer door warm from the sun. Inside smelled faintly of cedar and new carpet. The salesman handed me a small black fob and a folder of papers. I signed where tabs told me to sign. When I stepped back out, heat lifted off the asphalt in soft waves. Freedom can be as simple as a key in your pocket. At home, I put the fob on the counter beside a folded map of the hill country. I circled a loop that ran past Johnson City, Willow City, and out toward a dark patch of State Park. I moved through the house with a list I knew by heart: mail hold, neighbors notified, plants watered heavy. The blue shirt from London sat in the suitcase where I'd left it. I set it on a hook by the door. It could learn Texas sunsets as well as it would have learned the Thames. Near dusk, someone knocked. I knew the shape behind the glass before he spoke. "Dad," Luke said, voice low. He looked smaller without sunglasses and posture. I opened the door and let the evening air do the talking for a moment. Cicadas buzzed in the trees. A car rolled by and didn't slow. He cleared his throat. "I'm sorry. We were wrong. I was wrong. The text. London. All of it. I thought keeping things controlled would protect us. I hurt you. I see that now." I let the words sit. Apologies need their own silence. He went on. "Can we reset? Not like before. Just, can we be okay?" "I hear your apology," I said. "I won't be undoing what I did." He blinked, like he'd heard a language he almost understood. "You won't forgive me?" "No," I said. "Not now. Maybe not later. What you did not misspeak. It defined something. I'm going to live like I heard you." He swallowed. Nina won't come by. She's embarrassed." "I'm not asking her to," I said. "You have a key to the storage unit. You have the notice. You have the closing statement. You have your life." His shoulders fell. "So that's it?" "That's the boundary," I said. "You don't have to cross it. You just have to know where it is." He nodded once. A hard nod. "Okay." We stood in the doorway for another beat while the light went from gold to the color of toast. He looked past me into the house, not like a sun measuring space, but like a man saying goodbye to a picture he'd kept in his head. He stepped back. "Drive safe," he said, a sentence that surprised me with how honest it sounded. "You too," I said. When the street was empty again, I locked the door and turned off the hall light. I loaded the last bag into the trailer. The hitch clicked with a clean, satisfying seat. On the dash, the clock glowed a steady green. I pulled onto South Lamar, then west, the city loosening into low stone and open sky. The road climbed and fell, the way it always has, the way I hadn't let myself follow in years. At a turnout above a dry creek, I stopped and set a chair in the gravel. The blue shirt earned its first Texas evening. Cricket started up like a soft engine. I opened the small album I'd kept and looked at one photo of Luke when he was 8, baseball cap crooked, face dirty with joy. I closed it and slid it back in the drawer by the stove. Some things you keep. Some things you stop carrying. The map lay open on the table, a black pen circling tomorrow's line. The night air moved through the screen like a slow breath. I didn't ask anyone's permission to be here. I didn't wait to be included. Tomorrow, West, love without boundaries becomes permission for harm, and silence is not kindness. A father can be generous and still say enough. Paperwork and calm steps are not revenge. They're respect for yourself. This is a family story about choosing dignity when inclusion is denied, the kind you remember alongside grandpa stories told on porches at dusk. God gives us the courage to draw clean lines. God also asks us to act without cruelty. When trust is broken, forgiveness is a door you are not required to unlock on command. If someone defines you out of family, you are free to live accordingly, with steady hands and a quiet heart. Tonight the map lies open, the trailer is packed, and the blue shirt waits for a Texas sunset. I'm not angry, I'm finished. Moments like this shape any family story where a man chooses peace over pleading. I whisper a small prayer to God and let the quiet answer. One day, these choices will read like grandpa stories, not because they are grand, but because they teach the next generation how to stand up without shouting. If this family story spoke to you, share your own family story in the comments. What boundaries changed your life? We'd love to hear your grandpa stories, the grandpa stories that guided you, the grandpa stories you're still writing. Pass this family story along to someone who needs it, and save it with the moments that remind you to choose dignity. If it helped, please like, share gently, and subscribe. Your voice might steady someone else's road.